In the Pearson product moment correlation, it can test the association between two or more variables. But it needs, yes, Nova?
Sorry, sir. Namali lang, sir.
Okay, sige. So, but it needs to follow the assumptions of the Pearson R. So for the assumptions of Pearson R correlation, so still, since this is parametric testing, so the data should be normally distributed. Okay. The independent variable should be at interval or ratio scale. Okay. Should be at interval or ratio. And of course, the dependent variable also should also be um, at the interval or ratio. Okay. So in this particular test, you need to determine what are the different variables are dealing with. Okay. So for example, if we ask this particular research question, one, is there a significant relationship between, okay, satisfaction and performance of employees? Okay. So is there a significant relationship between satisfaction and performance of employees? So the null hypothesis, if we want to have the null hypothesis here, then our null hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between satisfaction and work performance of employees. So we have to test this particular hypothesis using the Pearson product or Pearson R moment correlation. And our independent variable is satisfaction. And we wanted to correlate satisfaction to our dependent variable, which is the performance. Each of these is measured using the mean scores, the overall mean. And this particular overall mean is in a form of this is a continuous variable, a scale. So that is why it follows the assumptions of Pearson R correlation. So in the Pearson R correlation, what are the things that we need to interpret? Okay, so we have this correlation coefficient. So the correlation coefficient, we call that one as the R value, okay, or the R value. So this is the strength, okay, and it measures the strength and direction of the relationship. So R value is a measure of the magnitude or the effect size of the relationship between the IV and the DV. So supposedly the IV is the one that can provide um, changes. Okay, independent variables can produce change to the dependent variable. And this particular strength of relationship can be measured using the Pearson R correlation. We also consider in the interpretation the p-value. Okay, so the probability value, this is to where we determine whether the relationship is significant or not. Okay, if the p-value is less than or equal to 0.05, then the relationship is significant. Okay, so this is the condition. If the p-value is greater than 0.05, then the relationship is not significant. So that's the condition when we determine the p-value. So kailangan natin i-consider these particular parameters, correlation coefficient and the p-value. Now, in the correlation coefficient, when we say direction of the relationship, so the R value can be positive or negative when it comes to its figure. Okay, so when we encounter a negative R value, meaning the relationship is inverse. Okay, so when we say inverse relationship, when the IV goes up, the DV goes down. That is an inverse relationship. If the R value is positive, then there is a directly proportional relationship. So in a directly proportional relationship, we consider that when X goes up, Y also goes up. When the IV increases, the DV also increases. So that's the meaning of the positive and negative correlation coefficient. So when we talk about the magnitude, okay, the magnitude or the strength of the relationship. So in the correlation analysis, it is actually from 0 to 1. Okay, 0 means no correlation. Okay, 1 means perfect correlation, but not all the time. It is possible. Okay, it's possible to have that 1 as the magnitude or the strength, but it's somewhat rare. Okay, it's rare that we can find a perfect relationship. So sometimes it can be near to 1 or near to 0. Okay, so if that is near to 0, then it will suggest a weak relationship. If that is near to 1, it will suggest a strong relationship. Okay, so there are some what we called as standards when it comes to determining a weak relationship or a strong relationship. But you just have to consider if that is near to 1 or if that is near to 0. So pag 0 siya, there's no linear association between the variables. So how do we analyze Pearson R correlation in JASP? Okay, so let's go to the software. So this is the software. Okay, example. This is our data. I'll go back to the data. Yeah. So for example, we have this Likert scale results and we get the overall mean. Let's look at the overall mean. Titingnan niyo yung overall mean in the data. So this particular data, we have the satisfaction. This is the overall satisfaction. The data coming from the participants of the study. This is the satisfaction. And let's go to the overall mean of the performance. Okay, so this is the overall mean of the performance. So we have two variables. We have one IV and we have one DV. So we wanted to determine the relationship between the IV and DV. So we will utilize the Pearson R correlation. So to analyze using the Pearson R correlation, okay, we will click the regression. Then we have here in the classical test, the correlation analysis. Click the correlation analysis. We have the Spearman. Okay. Ito yun, makita mo. Pearson, Spearman, Kendall, Tau. Itong Pearson is the parametric test. Spearman and Kendall are the non-parametric equivalent. Okay? We can also check for the assumption, the normality assumption. So, pwede yan siya. But we will transfer the overall mean of satisfaction in the variables and overall mean of the performance in the variables. Yan. Okay? So, automatic naman itong JASP. In the output view, makikita mo kaagad yung anong tawag dyan. Okay? So, makikita mo kaagad in the output view the results of the analysis. So, let's assume that the data is normal and we all know that it passed the assumption of that the IV must be in the interval or ratio and the DV must also be at the interval or ratio scale. So it revealed in the result that can I transfer this one? I'll transfer this to Microsoft Word. Okay. Tingnan ko if I can transfer. Okay. I'll transfer this result to the Microsoft Word para malaki. Okay. Then, window. So, this is the result of analysis. Okay. Vice versa naman yan siya. Satisfaction and performance. Okay. So, what you're going to do, you can revise the table. You can actually revise the table para mas madali maintindihan. I will remove this one. We have here, okay, performance. Okay, I'll make another table so that you will know how to present the table using the. So this is the independent variable. We have the satisfaction and the DB is the performance. Okay. So we have here the R, the p-value, remarks. So you can place such components in the table so that meron siyang representation of the parameters. So the results, the R value is 0.715. That's positive correlation. The p-value is less than 0.01, so it is 0.000. Okay. Since the p-value is less than 0.05, then this is significant. Okay. So this is how to present or report the table for Pearson R correlation. So what you're going to do after this, after you have reported all aspects in the table, nandito na yung mga results of the analysis, then we have to interpret the results. Okay, isa lang naman ang independent variable natin and we have one dependent variable. So, the results, okay, show that there is a significant relationship between satisfaction and performance of employees. R is equal to 0.715. P is less than 0.05. Okay? So this is the statistical interpretation that we know that since the p-value is less than 0.05, then the results show that there is a significant relationship between. So the positive, we can also talk about the correlation coefficient. The positive correlation coefficient, okay, indicates that the increase in positive, or they indicate that the increase in the increase in satisfaction would also likely increase the performance of the employees. Or pwede ganito, the correlation coefficient indicates that there is a strong and directly proportional relationship between the variables. Okay? In other words, okay, the increase in satisfaction would also likely increase. Okay, so that's how to interpret the correlation result. The results show that there is a significant relationship between satisfaction and performance of employees. The correlation coefficient indicates that there is a strong and directly proportional relationship between the variables. In other words, the increase in satisfaction would also likely increase the performance of the employees. This will not show effect, okay, because we are not using the regression analysis. This is just the correlation, and it will just give us an idea whether they are associated with each other. Okay? So, clear ba ang Pearson R correlation? Madali lang ang Pearson R, right?
Yes, sir.
Oo. Sige. So, I will give an activity, pero I will include more than one independent variable. I will let you analyze using the Pearson R correlation, because I want you to familiarize really well the correlation analysis before we will proceed to regression analysis. Kasi in regression analysis, this will be our next topic. There are a lot of assumptions in regression analysis that must be met. The assumption of heterogeneity test, okay? The assumption of normality, and some other assumptions of the regression analysis. But before that, I want you to familiarize first this correlation analysis. And I want you to also be familiarized on how to interpret the results of correlation analysis. Okay? So, I will post in our UVE the activity on correlation. You have to submit this one within this day. Hindi naman necessary at the end of this particular 4 p.m. tayo mag-end. Pero I think makaya nyo lang yan siya within 4 p.m. Pero if it will take you more time, then okay lang naman sa akin. Basta you can submit this one within this day. Okay? Sige. So, give me 5 to 7 minutes to post the activity in the UVE. And I want you to analyze the data and interpret the results based on the research question. So I'll see you again next meeting for the discussion of the regression analysis. And at the same time, we will have also a dry run of the seminar. Kailan nga yung seminar natin? On 27?
Yes po, sir.
Okay, sige. So see you again next Saturday. But today, I want you to answer the activity on correlation analysis. Keep safe and God bless. I'll post in a while the activity number 3 or number 2. Okay? Sige, bye-bye.
Bye, sir.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye,
Bye,
sir.
Okay, bye-bye.